الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. Amir's the only one that's seen that. طيب, in regards to what the other man, in regards to what we stopped at last class, it's just to continue from what we left off yesterday. Walillahi alhamd wal minna, we arrived to the last part of the chapter. So there's only one hadith left. So we've been doing this since Sha'ban. We started this in the first week of Sha'ban. But subhanAllah, we arrived at Ramadan that fast. Almost the middle of Ramadan. It's about maybe 4 more days to the middle of Ramadan. That's how fast time is moving. I remember we started this class in Sha'ban, first week. It's the middle of Ramadan almost. So it's just scary how time is just elapsed very quickly. For I ask Allah Ta'ala to allow us or give us the tawfiq to benefit from our time, because it is moving very, very fast, very expeditiously. Yeah. So we stopped at the hadith, but before we end the chapter, Ya Ma'ashar Ikhwa, I wanted to go back to the hadith of the man who fell into being intimate during the day of Ramadan. Just to go back a bit. There's a couple of masail, there's a couple of affairs I wanted to cover, a couple of issues that I wanted to cover before we go back to the hadith initially where we stopped at. If you go back, Ya Ma'ashar Ikhwa, about the man who became intimate, or fell into being intimate with his wife. For number one, we said how being intimate during the day of Ramadan is what? Is unlawful. And it's considered from the kaba'ir. Ahsant. It's considered from the major sins. That's number one. As we know, as we talked about last class, when a man said, when he came to the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, halaktu. I'm destroyed. So what does one gather from that particular word and from the man, if you study the hadith? I'm destroyed. What would a person, if he came to you right now and he said that to you, that was an indication, that's an indication of what, everyone? First of all, I'll give you a hint. Is it an indication that he's playing with the safe. He's all right. It's an indication that what, everyone? That he's not ignorant. For if a person comes to you and says, I'm destroyed, so that's to show that he has some khalfiyat. He has some type of prior information in his mind about the affair, that what he's doing or what he did was what? Wrong. Because if he was jahil, then what? The statement would have been made at all. Ahsant. The statement would have been made at all. He would have never came to the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and said what? I'm destroyed. So that's a clear indication that he's what, everyone? That he was what? Not only sane, but he was what? That he was what? He was an alim. He had an ilm. He had knowledge of the affair. Right, everyone? He had knowledge of the affair. So he was not what? Jahil. So he wasn't jahil. He wasn't ignorant at all. He was knowledgeable of the hukum. He was knowledgeable of the ruling. So we talked about those three affairs. What was what? Number one, this person has to be knowledgeable of the what? Of the ruling, and knowledgeable of what, everyone? Of the time. Knowledgeable of the ruling and knowledgeable of the time. So we said that knowledge breaks down to two categories. Number one is the alam bil hukum, knowledge of the ruling. Then alam bil waqt, knowledge of the time. Right, everyone? This is what we discussed, right? Right. Number two, we said he has to be in a state where he remembers. He has to be dhakir. He has to be in a state of remembrance. What he's doing in that particular moment of time, he's remembering. He knows what he's doing. He's totally aware, or in a state of awareness. He's not in a state of forgetfulness. Right. Also, number three, we said the last one is that he does it on purpose. That he does it intentionally, on purpose. Right. As we know, we talked about last lesson, what did we say? We said that being intimate during the day of Ramadan, number one, Not, we said, it's considered for the kabair, number one. Number two, what is it? What else after that, everyone? We said, I said, one's fast is invalid, it's nullified. It's nullified. That's by jima' yubtil siyam. That fasting, intimacy nullifies or invalidates fasting. And that's by kitab and sunnah and by the consensus of the ulama, consensus of the sahaba, by the consensus of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Due to the ayat number one and also this hadith. As Allah Ta'ala says in his book, فَالْآنَ بَاشِرُوهُنَّ وَابْتَغُوا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ. To the end of the ayah. As Allah Ta'ala says, Surah Al-Baqarah, He says, now be intimate with them. Meaning when the sun went down. In the ayah, which is in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 187. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَالْآنَ بَاشِرُوهُنَّ. Now be intimate with them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He said that be intimate with them now, what does that necessitate? That prior before the sun went down is what? It's impermissible to be intimate. And also due to this hadith. So this hadith and that ayah is a clear indication that it's permissible for one to be intimate with his wife or his spouse in the night. Until the sun, like we said, when it starts to come up due to the time of Fajr, then after that it becomes impermissible again, momentarily, until the sun likewise goes down again for the following day. Right, everyone? Right. So we said number one, person, in regards to a person that falls into this sin, he says consider for the major sins. That's number one. Number two, his fast is what? It's invalid. That's what we said yesterday, right, everyone? His fast is invalid. Number three, we also mentioned, which was what? He has to make tawbah. He has to make tawbah. He has to make repentance. Because this major sin is something that is what? It's something that the person fell into in this month of Ramadan, due to the fact of the time that we're in. For number one, the time that we're in. The time is virtuous. And, like we said, in regards to the time of what we're in, or this time that we're in right now, currently, it's a very virtuous and sacred time. So the person that broke his fast with this type of act, he transgressed the sacredness, what they call the hurmatul waqt. He transgressed the sacredness of the time that we're in, because it's a very secret time we're in, very sacred. So we said that the third thing is what, everyone? He has to make tawbah. The fourth thing is what? What did we say last class? He has to make the day up. That's the fourth thing we mentioned last class. He has to make the day up. Upon khilaf between Ahl Ilm, but what is strong is that he has to make it up, and that's the opinion of Sheikh bin Baz, Sheikh Uthaymeen, Sheikh Salih Fawzan, and other than them from Ahl Ilm, Al-Kibar, and other than them from the standing committee, Al-Lajna Al-Da'ima. Even though you'll find from what the great Imam Al-Albani and also the great Imam Al-Albani, he mentioned that he does not have to make qada, and it's also mentioned in the Muhalla by Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri. He mentions that he does not have to make qada. But, like we said, from what the majority of Ahl Ilm mention and say, is that a person still has to make that day up. In contrast to what Abu Muhammad Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri, that he mentions, it says that he doesn't have to make the day up, where I did read in his book called Al-Muhalla, as I've seen it. His evidence is strong, though. He does bring some strong evidence. But, like we said, you'll find the great Imma from these days at times, Ibn Baz, Ibn Fawzan, Ibn Uthaymeen, that they all say that he has to what? He has to make that particular day up. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Right. The fifth thing, where a person that falls in this particular act during the day of Ramadan is what, everyone? He has to do expiation. He has to do and perform an expiation. Right. You'll find in this hadith, if you look in your books, don't forget to write this down too, everyone. You'll find that this Sahabi, radiallahu anh, that when he fell into this particular act, the first thing he did was go where, everyone? He went to Ahl Ilm. He went to a person who truly had knowledge. And the greatest of those who had ilm was who, everyone? The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The greatest of those who had ilm of the wahi of Allah is the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So he didn't hesitate. He came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam seeking that particular fatwa in regards to the matter that he fell into. So a person of what has some type of difficulty in his religion, then the first thing, especially if it's in regards to these detrimental affairs that take place, then the first person he returns back to is who, everyone? Is Ahl Ilm. So you'll find that in this hadith, what happened? He returned back to who? Did he go back to his friend? Did he go back to someone on the street? Did he go back to anyone that he might have thought that read some couple of books? No. Who did he go back to, everyone? He went back to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that shows clearly that what? That a person, these particular affairs, definitely, especially if it's detrimental to this extent, you would go back to the Messenger of Allah, or a person that has knowledge of the affair. So he didn't hesitate. So that's the reason why you'll find in a lot of different affairs, which you'll find in the authentic narrations, where they did not hesitate to go back to the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam. Is it clear so far, everyone? Right. The third thing, as we talked about yesterday, in regards to this narration, if you look in your books, this shows that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he do? It was a clear indication of his exemplary character. How the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had that impeccable, exemplary character, alayhi salatu wasalam. Because to the point where this affair was so severe, as they say, من باب تطيب خواطره وطيب خاطره وتطيب الخواطر, that he made him feel ease in his mind. To the point where the Messenger of Allah, at the end of the narration, he tried to make him feel a little bit more what? A little bit more serene and tranquil about the affair. But you fell into it, but no problem. Take it easy. To the point where he, what? Alayhi salatu wasalam, had laughed at the end of the hadith. Then he laughed. It says in the narration, you look at your books, what does it say? فَضَحِكَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what? That he laughed. In this order, and you'll find that what? That was in order to ease. What? In order to what? Ease the situation. Right or wrong? In order to ease the situation. You'll find that even if in the benefits, as it says, في هذا الحديث دلالة على حسن خلقه ورفقه بالناس فإنه لم يعنف هذا الرجل ولم يشدد عليه بل استقبله استقبالا رفيقا لينا واستمتع لسؤاله ثم أجابه. To the end of it. In the hadith is an indication of his impeccable, exemplary character, alayhi salatu wasalam, and his gentleness with the people. To the point where he was not harsh with the man. He was not harsh with him. And he wasn't very stern with him. Rather, he welcomed him. He welcomed him in a very calm, collective, soft manner. And he listened to his what? His question. And he answered it. طيب. So all these, we have ma'ashal ikhwa, like we said, keep in mind that jima' or intimacy is the what? In this particular matter of fasting, that's the only thing, as we discussed last class, which was what? That would necessitate what, everyone? An expiation. As far as regards, so if a person was, like we talked about, discussed last night or yesterday, we said what, everyone? If a person was to fondle with his wife, or to kiss his wife, until the point where he ejaculated, then ejaculated sperm, not preseminal discharge. What did we say in regards to preseminal discharge? Or what they call pre-cum? What did we say? Your fast, it does not invalidate the fast. Preseminal discharge does not what? It does not invalidate the fast. Right, everyone? But however, what will invalidate it is what? Ejaculation, sperm, or semen. If semen is ejaculated, it invalidates the fast. Is it clear, everyone? So, but however, the point we're trying to make is if a person was to fondle with his wife to the point where he ejaculated, then what? If he did not, or actual intercourse did not take place, what would be binding upon him? A kafara? A kafara? An expiation? No. Why? Because he did not? The actual private part did not enter. If the private part enters, then what? It's expiation. The private part did not enter, and he ejaculated, semen, not preseminal discharge, semen. Then what? He just has to what? Make a day up. And he has to make tawbah, of course. Make tawbah. Yeah, make tawbah, because he transgressed the sacredness of fasting. Right, everyone? That's what we mentioned last class. طيب. The things I wanted to also give a little bit more detail in is in regards to in the hadith is an indication that what there's another benefit I wanted to talk about just before we move on to the other ones, before the last hadith. In this hadith is an indication If the person who is not able to carry out the expiation, then what do we say? Jade. That's the three, or just the origin of the affair. The expiation is in that order. In that order. Keep in mind the benefit of what we're talking about now. Notice in the hadith, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had arranged it in an order. Ahl ilm say in this regard, like number one, liberating a slave or a concubine. Liberating a slave or freeing a slave or a concubine. Right, everyone? So that's the first thing. Of course, in these days and times, that's not exists. And even people who say Mauritania is still slave, Allahu Alam. Allah if this is correct. But number one is that one has to liberate or free a slave or a concubine. That concubine, that slave has to be what? Has to be a mu'mina, has to be a Muslim. Has to be Muslim. It cannot be a what? A non-Muslim. فَتَحْرِيرُ رَقَبَةِ مُؤْمِنَةٍ. For freeing a what? A believing slave. Y'all guys writing this down? You're just looking at your books. So what has to be freed is what? Who has asthma? Because him jumping around, he just coughing like that, usually it's an indication of asthma. But anyway, no. So number one is what? Free a believer slave. As we talked about. It's number one. Yeah, I said expiation. Number two is what? It's to fast 2 consecutive months. Then after that is what? Just give me 1 second. Abdul, He has to feed 60 people. Muslim or non-Muslim? They have to be Muslim. They have to be what? Muslim. Taib. The Messenger of Allah, when he mentioned this order, is he mentioning it in a manner of it being an alternative, meaning a choice? Or is it ala sabil al-tartib? Or is it in a manner of what is arranged in a certain order? Which one? Which one is it? Is it based upon a choice? You could just choose which one you want? Or you could start with this one, you could start, whatever you want. Or is it based upon the order? Jay, ahsantum. It's based upon the order how the Messenger of Allah what? Arranged it. So if the person is not able to do the first, then he goes to the what? To the second. Then he goes to the what? To the second. Then if he's not to the second, he's not able, then what? Then the third. The third is to feed 60 impoverished people. You're a little bit tired of that. It's in the hadith. You have the book. It's in the hadith. It's all in the hadith. You must be busy, Jamal, because usually be on point. That's an incentive. Yeah, I know. Anyway, so number one is what? Freeing a believer slave. Number two, 2 consecutive months. And third is what? 60 indigent or impoverished people. Muslim. They have to be Muslim. They have to be Muslim. And some of the Muslims out there, you'll find that they'll find and feed non-Muslims and think that will be adequate. It's not. It will not suffice at all. It has to be impoverished Muslims, of course. That's the asl, that's the origin, of course. Taib. Rather, that's the hukm, Rather, that's the hukm, it's the ruling. But anyway, so we said, the Messenger of Allah mentioned it in a manner of an arrangement. If one is not able to do the first, then he moves to the second. And then if he doesn't go to the second, then he goes to the what? Then he goes to the third. So it's not in a matter of what it's a takhyir, in a matter where it's an alternative where you can choose which one you want. No. It's in the order based upon one's incapability of doing that first one, then he moves to the second. Then to the second, then he moves to the what? Moves to the third. Jayyid? Is it clear so far? Jayyid. What you go before I get to you? Abdul Baltan, he raised his hand a couple of times. Just one day. No, that one day that he invalidated his fasting. That's it. So basically, you have to do 2 consecutive months along with that one day that he invalidated his fasting. No. No, it's based upon that one particular day. No. Just that one particular day that he what? That he invalidated his fasting. That's it. That's because he fell into being intimate. That's why he had to fast 2 consecutive months. Is it clear? Does that answer your question? We talked about this yesterday. You wasn't here. Did we say that yesterday? Yeah, you wasn't here about that. Anyway, if a person falls into more than one day, you still have to only do one expiation. Why? What did we say yesterday? There's no way you can renew your fast. You already invalidated it. So it's not like you can start your fast over in the middle of the day when you validate it and then what? Fall into it again. Because your fast is already what? It's already validated. So if a person fell to be intimate with his wife more than once while he's in the month of Ramadan, then what? If let's just say he was intimate with his wife twice during the day. So he validated it once, then what? If he fell into it twice, so let's just say 5 times or 3 times. That's a lot of intercourse, right? In one day, you know, 3 times. Then it's upon him to what? Just to make one. How many expiations, everyone? 1. That's it. 1. Due to the fact that he already validated that fast. So it's not like he can go back to Fajr, renew his fast again, and then start all over. You can't. Khalas, it's in the middle of the day. It's not like you can resume fasting for a month of Ramadan, right? Is it clear? Tafadal, because we got a lot to cover. Tafadal. We talked about that yesterday. He missed it too. Everything we both said, we said it yesterday. Didn't we say yesterday? That was no problem. That wasn't your fault. You said you mixed up the time. Yeah. Those type of affairs of which comes in the shara' of what applies to the ahkam of Ramadan is the same thing applies for the 2 consecutive months. So if a woman now was to come on her meds and she was trying to do that, perform that kafara, she was trying to perform that expiation, and her meds came on, then that would necessitate that she would have to what? She would have to stop fasting. It's obligatory. But it would not affect it being consecutive. Due to the fact that it what? Something of another hukum, which is a mani'. They call mani'. Something of a barrier that came over her momentarily, which made it another hukum binding upon her, which is what? Her being on her meds. So it's obligatory for her to break her fast. Even if she's doing a kafara. Even if she's doing an expiation. Doesn't matter. She still will have to what? Break her fast. Right? So a woman does not continue to fast if she's on her meds because she wants to make or perform a kafara. No. It's obligatory for her to what? To break her fast. And that wouldn't affect it being consecutive. Is it clear what I'm saying? So even if she breaks her fast and she resumes it after her meds goes off, then it's still considered in the hukum of it being consecutive. Is it clear? Fine. So notice that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, that in the arrangement of what happened, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ at the end, and which we'll bring another benefit in a couple of seconds, inshallah, a couple of minutes. Anyway, the first thing we want to say is that this is a delay of this hadith, that a person who's not able to do it, then he goes in that arrangement. Until the end, the bitter end, if he has total, absolute, what they call ajz, absolute incapability, then what? Then it falls, then the obligation what? Falls. But that's in total, that's in a predicament where it's in total, absolute what? Ajz. Ajz in Arabic, as we know, means incapable. Incapable. Right, everyone? So it's the message of Allah ﷺ in the end. He did not command him to what? He did not command him to make it up after that. After he had total, absolute incapability in the hadith. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? He had total, absolute incapability, if you notice. So due to the fact, in that case, the message of Allah ﷺ, when he got to the bitter end, then it switched. That's what we'll talk about. Where the message of Allah himself took it on the expiation himself. Where he said, go get a basket of what? Go get a basket of dates and bring it to me. And there's a benefit in that particular wording. There's a benefit in that wording, which we're going to discuss in a minute. But anyway, I'm going to just read quickly what Sheikh Salih Fawzan even mentioned this particular benefit. Just listen quickly. He said that the Prophet ﷺ did not command him for that expiation after, if you will notice, don't write this down yet, just listen. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ did not command him to do the expiation when he was in that absolute state of ajiz, of incapability. As this is the madhab of the Hanabila. Just listen. أنه إذا لم يجد الخصال الثلاث سقطت. That if the person doesn't find those three things, that he's basically incapable of doing all three, then the obligation what? It falls. Because the Messenger of Allah ﷺ did not command him to carry out the expiation after that what? After that total incapability that he's seen. That was the first statement of what? It's the madhab of the Hanabila. Keep in mind, that's the qawl of the madhab of the Hanabila. Just listen. Al-qawl al-thani, the second statement is that it does not drop off. That it does remain in his responsibility. Because they say it's a what? It's a dain. It's a debt for Allah. So it remains in his responsibility of him carrying it out as long as he's able to what? To do it, to perform it. Due to the hadith of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, carry out the debts of Allah, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more deserving that his debt be what? Fulfilled. To the end of the hadith. Just listen. So from them who also says that the man, he says, من قال إن هذا الرجل كفر عنه صلى الله عليه وسلم بهذا التمر ولما كان فقيرا صرفه إليه من باب الكفارة. So when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's another statement. Just, I don't think everybody's a little bit thrown off, huh? He said, for the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, also likewise, he took on the kafara himself. That's another statement. Because he said that dates be brought. And he said, give the dates to the what? To the people and disseminate it yourself. And he was talking to the person who fell into the sin. Right, everyone? He says, so the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave it to him. So listen. What is the strongest statement in which you'll find the Ahl Ilm that they say in this regard? That if a person has total absolute incapability, then that person can what? That the application, it falls. That's the qawl rajih. That's the strongest opinion. If you can, you can just go to the corner. Just go put them in the corner right there and let them play. Because once you hear the voices will be a little bit further away. You can just let them play in the corner. Just put the toys in the corner, just let them play in the corner. You just put them right there by the wall, because the kids usually play behind, not don't have them too far out of our observation. We'll put them by the wall, right in the back of the wall. Yeah, like right there. Just to put it up so you can't have to hear the voices. Do it like that. Fine. So the obligation, what? It falls off in absolute what? Incapability. In absolute incapability, it falls. Fine. Another affair that's extracted from the hadith is that it's permissible for someone else to take on the expiation, and other than the person who what? It was not, other than the person, it's not obligatory for him to what? To carry it out. Rather, another person can what? Take it on for him. For example, person, I don't have the money to what? Feed 60. So the person says, I'll pay it for you. I'll pay it for you. So a person can what? So a person can take on the burden for his brother. Right? It's for Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam tahamala hadil kafara. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he took on the what? The burden of the expiation. So he says, وَلَمَّا كَانَ الرَّجُلُ مُحْتَاجًا إِلَيْهَا صَرَفَهَا إِلَيْهِ. However, when this person was in this severe, dire circumstance, or this dire need, notice the Messenger of Allah in the hadith, when he seen the desperate, dire need of it, to the point where even what? He gave it to him. But however, the person who is obligatory upon to carry out, they cannot do that. Meaning, I have the kafara, I'm in need of it, I'm going to use it for myself. Is it clear what I'm saying? I'll say it again. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took on the what? The burden of the what? Expiation, right? but other than the person who was obligatory upon to carry it out himself, right? For the Messenger of Allah took it on himself, but however, when he seen that the man was in dire need of it, what did he do? What did the Prophet ﷺ do in the hadith? He gave it to him. He gave the expiation to him. Because he was he was deserving of it. But like we said, this is in a very severe circumstance where a person is in severe poverty. That's a severe state of poverty. You understand what I'm saying? To the point where did the person say in the hadith, if you notice, what does it say in your book? He says, I'll give it to someone who is more poor than me. He says to the point where he said, I swear, he says, well, there's nobody that's between these two mountains that's more poor than who? Than me. What's in your book? Read it. Read it. What's it say in your book? About the text itself. What does it say? There's no one in this city what? Which is to show clearly what? What's to show clearly what, everyone? He was in a very, very severe state of poverty. He was very impoverished. He was very poor. He says, upon a person who's more poor than me. So then the Messenger of Allah ﷺ switched it and gave it to what? He said, give it to him. He says, give it to your family to what? To feed. Also you'll find the origin is that the person who's supposed to do it cannot do this. Unless someone else takes it on and then sees that he's in need, then he what? Then he gives it to him or gives it to the person. But the person who has to carry it out himself cannot do this. The person who's supposed to do it himself cannot do this. Like, I'm going to do it myself. And I've noticed certain people do this in Ramadan. I don't know why, and I don't know where they get this from. They'll give zakat al-fitr to their own family. I don't know, like, where do you get that from? Zakat al-fitr to their own family. You know what I'm saying? They give zakat al-fitr to their own kids. You cannot do that. Zakat al-fitr is not for the usul. It's not for you, for your family. It's not for your family. It's not for them. If it's for the furu' or the other foreign distance relatives, that's something I have to look up. I have to do the research on. But I know from the reading that I've done, zakat al-fitr is not for the usul. You cannot do it for your family. You have to disseminate it to what? To someone else who's in need of it. You can't buy rice or buy all these different non-perishable goods and say, I'm going to keep it, I need it. That's not the origin. That's not the asl. You cannot do that. You understand, everyone? I've seen people do that. They do it out of ignorance. I don't know where they get that from. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Right, but just to get back to the point of the matter is, so the Messenger of Allah, just so we can get to the point so we can move to the next one. So the Messenger of Allah took on the what? The expiation himself. Which to show that if a person came and said, listen, I'll pay for you. Due to the fact you're not able, I'll pay for you. I'll pay for the 60 people. Then the person says, well, I'm poor myself. I need it myself. Okay, in that instance here, take this. But, take this yourself. But, what? The person who's obligatory upon cannot do that. He cannot do that. Now I'm going to read it quickly. You see, it says, وَلَمَّا كَانَ الرَّجُلُ مُحْتَاجًا إِلَيْهِ صَرْفَ إِلَيْهِ لِأَنَّهُ مُسْتَحِقٌّ فَإِذَا تَحَمَّلَ الْكَفَّارَ شَخْصٌ آخَرٌ والمتحمل عنه مستحق لها جاز صرفها إليه أما إذا كان أداها هو عن نفسه فلا يجوز له أن يصرفها لنفسه. To the end of it. It says, for the man, so when the Messenger of Allah took on the expiation for himself, he took the burden on. However, when he see that the man needed it himself, he gave it to him because he deserved it. So if he takes on the expiation, someone else, then the person who's supposed to carry it out, if he deserves it, then it can be given to him. But as for if he was to do it himself, or keep it for himself, it's not permissible for what? For him to do that, where he keeps it for himself and for his own, to his own family. No. Is it clear? Is it clear what I'm saying? Absolutely. If the other person takes it, the one that takes on the responsibility. He's in desperate need. Right. He cannot do that. Gee. Pipe, the other thing. You'll find that Ahl Ilm say that it's not obligatory, and I know what people are going to ask me when I say this, that a kafara is not obligatory upon a person Alhamdulillah. A person that's in a state of forgetfulness and a state of what? Ignorance. The person that's in a state, and I know what you guys are going to ask me. Trust me, I already know what's coming. So kafara is not obligatory upon a person who's in a state of forgetfulness and a person that's what? Ignorant. So I already know what's coming. Trust me. How can a person fall into being intimate with his wife and be forgetful? I know what's coming. Trust me. I know it is. But just keep in mind that a person that is what? Ignorant. That person that what? Is ignorant, and a person that also likewise, even if he's in state for forgetfulness, then is it obligatory upon him to make the kafara? State of ignorance is understandable, but a person will probably ask, I see the state of what? Forgetfulness. That's some of the ulama that they kind of find it far off. They said, how can a person forget? Well, if he forgets, then his wife would be there to what? To remind him. That's why they kind of find it far off. They find it to be far off. It's mustabad. How? If he knows the hukum, especially if he knows the hukum, if he knows the ruling, how can he forget? Because in that instance, there will always be somebody there to what? To remind him. Your wife. Of course, the first thing your wife say, oh, hey, I forgot. As soon as you start touching them, yeah, you're taking it too far. Slow down. Right? Then what? Then she would say to what? To remind her. That's why Ahl Ilm say that it's what? It's far off. It's kind of mustabad. But the one who's jahil, the one who's ignorant, then that person is not what? Held accountable. As far as in regards to the kafara and all those affairs. He's not held accountable. Based upon the qawa'id, the principles that we lay down. Why? Doesn't know. And we just said, due to the fact that Ahl Ilm says from that hadith in the first part, what does it say? The man in the hadith was what? He was knowledgeable of the affair. Right or wrong? He said, I'm destroyed. Clearly. It was to show what, everyone? What does that show? He had knowledge of the affair. He wasn't jahil. He was knowledgeable of the affair. He's knowledgeable of the affair. And that's what Ibn Uthaymeen leaned towards, and that, inshallah, that's the strongest of opinions. In regards to Ahl Ilm that say that it's obligatory in all cases, whether he be forgetful, ignorant, or done it on purpose, intentionally, then he still has to what? Do an expiation in all cases, mutlaqan. Due to the qa'idah, tarkul, what is it, the qa'idah they say? It's a qa'idah that is also accepted in fiqh. It says tarkul al-istifsal. It says tarkul al-istifsal fi maqam al-ihtimal yunazzalu manzal al-umum fi al-maqam. It's a qa'idah fiqhiyah. But anyway, I want to get inside of that. I want to keep it concise and easy for the brothers. I want to start getting inside qawa'id right now. But that's a qa'idah usul fiqh. I mean, a qa'idah in fiqh, not usul fiqh. In fiqh, it says tark al-istifsal. This is just a side benefit. This is not the strongest opinion. This is just a side benefit. tark al-istifsal في مقام الاحتمال ينزل منزلة العموم في المقال. He says that leaving off details in a predicament where it can necessitate this or that, or probability, it could be probably mean this and that, then it is applied, the application of it being general in the particular statement of the Prophet ﷺ, meaning the hukum is general. What did he mean by that? What he means is, if you look in the hadith, this is how carefully to show how much the ulama who truly have fiqh scrutinize the text of the Message of Allah, how they study it very carefully. Because the Message of Allah, ﷺ, when a man came, when he gave the hukum to him, did he say, are you ignorant? Did you forget? Did you do it on purpose? That's what they say. Said the Message of Allah did not ask for these details. So due to the fact that he didn't ask, then they say that this predicament, it can necessitate this or that. It can necessitate one or the other. It can necessitate he was either what? It could necessitate that he was ignorant, or it could necessitate that he was forget, or did he do it on purpose, or what have you. But the Messenger of Allah didn't ask for none of that. So the hukum applies to all of those affairs. They say whether he's ignorant, whether he did it on purpose, or whether he's forgetful, the hukum applies generally. Because the Messenger of Allah did not ask what? For any details. That's a qa'idah. But Ahl Ilm on the other side of the fence said, no. Rather, another indication shows that the man truly was what? Knowledgeable of the affair. Due to the fact that he said what? I'm destroyed. So when he said he was destroyed, that's a clear, that cuts what? The detail. That now gives an extra detail. To let the Messenger of Allah ﷺ know that the man what? He knew. He had knowledge. He had ilm. So the Messenger of Allah here in this instance did not need to what? Ask him for those details. Because once he heard it, he heard the man said, I'm destroyed. He already knew that what? He knew what he was doing was incorrect. Is it clear? So that knocks out that probability in that particular qa'idah. But this qa'idah is applied in certain ahadith. It is applicable, and it is correct in certain instances. That's qawa'id fiqhiyya. Don't keep it basic. Right. That's it. We'll get too deep. And trust me, fiqh can get deep. It can get very deep. Very, very deep. That's why I try to keep it basic as much as possible. But anyway. Right. Next hadith. Last one. But as far as the hadith of Aisha, I think everyone already knows the hadith of Aisha and Salama. We already talked about that last class, right, everyone? We talked about the message of Allah يصبح وكان أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يصبح جنبا من جماع لم يغتسل ويصوم متفق عليه. To the end of it. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, that he would come upon the morning in the state of being, or in state of being in being in the state of major impurity. Excuse me. In the state of being major impurity. From what? From being intimate, right? We talked about that last class, right, everyone? We talked about that last class. The message of Allah يصبح جنبا من جماع. He would be in a state of major impurity from intimacy, from being intimate with his wife or his wives. Either Aisha, and is also rated upon who? Salama. Radiyallahu an جميع أمهات المؤمنين. Right, everyone? طيب. So, you'll notice in the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ, when he came upon the morning in a state of major impurity from being intimate with his wife, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ did not make a ghusl. He did not make a ghusl. Until he ate, of course we know, that's sahur, not suhoor, sahur. He ate sahur, then he what? Began his fast. Then, time for Fajr came in, then he what? Made a ghusl. Then he what? Prayed. Is it clear what I'm saying? I'll say it again. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ came upon the morning. What? Number one, he ate sahur, of course. Keep in mind, he was in a state of what? He was in a state of major impurity, in junub. So he woke up in a state of major impurity. Came upon the morning, ate sahur, of course. Started its fast because Fajr came in. Then after Fajr came in, he what? Made a ghusl. So he started his fast first. Then when Fajr came in, then what? He made a ghusl. Then he prayed. Is it clear? It's similar to a woman, same thing. Similar, likewise, is applicable to a woman. Fine. I have a question, quick question. Let's just say a woman now, her mens comes on, her mens is on. All the way to the what? All the way to the night. The mens is on. All the way to, let's just say, 10 minutes before Fajr. Her mens stops. No. Let's just say 10 minutes before Fajr came in. Fine. Everyone knows that a woman, when she's on her mens, she's in a state of what? Major impurity. Mens stopped. She didn't make a ghusl yet. Because we know in order for a woman to start resuming her prayers and for her to be intimate to all those other ahkam, she has to what? She has to make a ghusl. She has to make a ghusl. Fine. She came in, Fajr came in. Her mens stopped before Fajr. Fine. She ate sahur, of course. She didn't make a ghusl yet. Time for Fajr came in. Right? Now for Fajr came in, she started her fast, but she didn't make a ghusl yet. Her fast still valid? Her Fast still valid? What do you say, EB? EB. Is it valid or not? So that shows that they are paying attention. Fine. Because the Prophet ﷺ made a ghusl after. And likewise, it's applicable to the woman. In regards to the examples, because being in a state of major impurity, this still did not affect what? The actual fast. It didn't affect it here in this particular instance. You understand? It did not affect it. Did not affect it. And also likewise, of course, in regards to wet dreams, same thing. Those particular instances, major impurity does not affect one's fast. Is it clear? Person during the sleep, let's just say during the day of Ramadan, he has a wet dream, wakes up, found he had a wet dream. What does he do? Stop his fast? No. He continues to fast. Why? But he's still in the state of what? Major impurity. He has to be a ghusl. But did it affect his fast or not? No. Didn't affect his fast. Is it clear? Jay. طيب. Next, last hadith. This is the last one in the chapter. We can finish this. This hadith has some khilaf in it. Come from the khilaf between Ahl al-Ilm. Even though I lean towards what Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, even though my opinion doesn't mean anything, but you'll find it's as if Shaykh Salih Fawzan himself even leans towards what Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah says. But Shaykh al-Taymiyyah says in contrast to that, which we'll discuss in a couple of minutes, inshallah. Just read this, the last hadith of the chapter. Look. حديث عائشة رضي الله عنها أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من مات عليه الصيام صام عنه وليه. Whoever dies and it's upon him a fast is obligatory, then his wali, or people who's responsible for him, as we're going to talk about inshallah. Matter of fact, how does it translate in your books if you look at it? What does it say? How do you translate wali here in this context? Also, if you guys can, pick the Quran off the floor. And keep the Quran off the floor. Say it again. His heirs, his inheritors. His heirs, or people who's inherited. So they translate wali here as what? As his inheritors, or his heirs. People who inherited. Who inherit from him. Jayyid. So, depending on the context of certain words in Arabic, then we know that it can mean different meanings. Right, everyone? طيب. So, see in the hadith, alhamdulillah, brothers, we're happy we've arrived to the last hadith in the chapter. You with me, Evie? Well, you got your book, Evie? Is it you? Your book with you? Oh, he looks tired today. Please focus. He looks like he's a little exhausted. We have rahmah for our children. طيب. So in regards to the last part, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, it says, whoever dies and upon him siyam, then his wali fast for him. But we said wali here means what? His heirs. طيب. What does it mean here? طيب. For a person that dies and it's obligatory upon him, a particular what? Affair. From that, ibadah is what? Is siyam. Keep in mind, this is the only exception. We're talking about siyam. As far as salah, or all those affairs that we're going to talk about and establish, no one can pray for anyone. As far as the salah itself, not make dua. I'm not talking about making dua. Dua you can make for your brother, your sister when they die or have you. That's clear. We're talking about actually perform a prayer for them in their absence. They for example, they didn't used to pray, so I'm going to make up some prayers for them. No. You understand what I'm saying, everyone? That's when I say pray for them, because in English, prayer can mean supplication. Anyway, we're not talking about supplication. Fine. So this hadith is clear to show that a person that dies and upon him, that's an obligatory fast. Obligatory fast. So keep in mind, we're talking about what is a fast that is what? Obligatory. Keep in mind, ya ma'ashar ikhwa, you have obligatory fast that breaks down to two categories. Write this down. Write this in your books. You have fast that breaks down to two type of categories. You have a fasting that is what? Number one, wajib bi asl shara'. You have a fast that's obligatory by the origin of the shara', the origin of kitab and sunnah. Meaning Allah himself binded it upon the people to do it. Allah himself binded upon the people to do it. Such as what everyone, what we're doing right now. Ramadan. Why? Because Allah himself made it what? Obligatory. By the origin of the shara', by the origin of kitab and sunnah. By him, Allah himself made it obligatory. Right? In his messenger, of course. Alayhi salatu wasalam. Tayyib. So by the origin of the shara', it's obligatory. That's the first category. Then you have the category of what? The second category of what is obligatory, a fast that's obligatory, that's not by the origin of the shara'. Meaning you made it obligatory upon yourself. Meaning you made it obligatory upon yourself. Allah didn't make it obligatory upon you, you made it obligatory upon yourself. Hey, brother, you take that to start, Jim. Don't be hasty. Like taking a vow. Like taking a vow. Taking a vow for Allah. That's something Allah what? Did not make obligatory upon you. You made it obligatory upon your what? Yourself, which is called Siyam al-Nadhr. Siyam what? Al-Nadhr. Nadhr. Noon, Dhal, Ra. Nadhr. Siyam al-Nadhr. The fasting of what? Huh? What, everyone? Hang in there with me, EB's on by the string. Stay in there. Tayyib. Siyam al-Nadhr. Siyam of what? Of taking a vow for Allah to do something, or taking an oath, or taking a vow, to make it clear. Tayyib. That you made obligatory upon your what? Yourself. Once you now do it upon yourself, once you now say, for example, if Allah cures my sick person or my sick brother or my sick sister, then it's upon me for Allah to fast 10 days straight. That's called a vow. Allah didn't make that obligatory upon you. You made it obligatory upon your what? Yourself. Once you say that, now you have to what? You have to do it now. You have to fulfill it. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his book says in his two ayat, يُوفُونَ بِالنَّذْرِ وَيَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا كَانَ شَرُّهُ مُسْتَطِيرًا. As it says, Surah Al-Dahr, Surah Al-Insan. He says, يُوفُونَ بِالنَّذْرِ وَيَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا كَانَ شَرُّهُ مُسْتَطِيرًا. That they fulfill their vows. And they fear a day where their evil will be what? Widespread and what? Be exposed. Meaning the day of resurrection. The evil they committed. Also another ayah, which we read in Taraweeh the other day. وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن نَفَقَةٍ أَوْ نَذَرْتُم مِّن نَذَرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ. The other ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you do not give any type of spending, meaning for him, or you perform some type of vow, except Allah has knowledge of it. However, nadhr is something you made binding upon yourself. Allah didn't make it obligatory upon you. And we know nadhr is a type of worship. And it's a worship that if it's done for other than Allah, you nullify your Islam. Absolutely. It's a type of ibadah. You've nullified your Islam because that would be polytheism. You understand? It's paganism. It's polytheism. And if you do that for other than Allah, you nullify your Islam. Your Islam is nullified. Because it's a worship. It is from the affairs of Tawheed, which is only for what? For Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also likewise, nadhr is a ibadatun, as we know, a ibadatun faridatun. Sheikh Muhammad al-Jam used to call nadhr, he said it's a ibadatun faridatun, he said ibadatun mustaqillatun fadha. He said that it's an ibadah that stands out alone from all other aspects of worship. I told the brothers this probably a couple of months ago. Why is nadhr considered an ibadah that is what? It stands out alone by itself. Why? Because nadhr, what they call siyam, or what they call taking a vow, is the only worship in its origin you'll find that the ulama describe, even Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah says it's haram to do it. And some of Ahl al-Ilm say it's hated and detested to do it. Some of Ahl al-Ilm say it's hated. You shouldn't do it at all. It's dispraised. When do we know that any aspect of worship is what? Dispraised in its origin? There isn't any. that ibadah is, for some reason. Why? I'm going to explain in a minute. The origin of the hukm of another is what? It's either hated and detested, number one. You guys writing this down? Or it's haram to do it. And that's the opinion of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah says another is muharram. One shouldn't do it at all. It's haram. Why? Due to the hadith which is in al-Bukhari and Muslim. But the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned, it said, La tandhiru. Do not take a vow. In another narration it says, Innahu la yati bi khair. It doesn't bring any good. So the Prophet ﷺ said it doesn't bring any good. What's the point in when you're doing it? He says, Innahu la yati bi khair. Wa innama yustakhraju bihi min al-bakhil. It doesn't bring any good. And he says, verily it's extracted from the one who's stingy. So the Prophet ﷺ is dispraising what? A vow. He's dispraising it. He's telling the person what? Don't do it. Doesn't bring any good. It's just going to put you in a bad predicament. When Allah didn't make you make this obligatory, you make it obligatory by yourself. Where you now what? You put yourself in a very what? In a very, very extreme bad circumstance. Allah didn't put that bond upon you. You made it bond upon yourself. Just like what happened with the what? The Jews and the Christians. What happened with the Christians especially with the Catholics. They started doing certain things that Allah didn't tell them to do, such as practicing celibacy. That was something, an innovative practice, Allah himself said that that's something they came with. Allah didn't pound it upon them to do it. They wanted to do it. Right? So now you wanted to do it, you had to fulfill it. So when you tried to fulfill it, you put yourself in a what? In a bad circumstance. Now you start falling into things that go against your nature, such as touching little boys, getting married secretly, getting prostitution, having girlfriends behind closed doors, and all those other things. Because Allah didn't bind upon it. You put yourself in a bad circumstance. Allah clearly said himself, he did not bind that upon them to what? Practice that. Allah said they innovated that. Allah didn't tell them to do that. Right? Taib. So the thing with the nadhr. Shaykh al-Islam said it's muharram. Right, everyone? Taib. You'll also find that the hadith, based upon what we just said, that verily is extracted from the one that is what, everyone? Stingy. That's a clear indication that the Prophet ﷺ what? Dispraised it. Is it clear? So it's basically an affair that one should not what? Indulge in. Am I right or wrong? G. So we have those two categories. You have the category of what's obligatory in the origin of the Kitab and Sunnah, which is Ramadan and all those other things. And then you have that which is from what you make binding upon yourself, which is what? What's the name of it? Nadhr. But as far as those affairs of what is obligatory by the origin of the Shara', then that is, for example, Ramadan, or making up the day of Ramadan, or an expiation. An expiation. Those things are obligatory. Allah made obligatory. That's in the first category. So you have number one, like we said, the month of Ramadan, whether it be ada'an or qada'an, whether it be what we're doing right now, what we're doing right now, or making it up after the month. That's obligatory from Allah himself. Then you have what is also obligatory. Number three of the first category, which is, such as an expiation. An expiation. That's obligatory upon the person from Allah himself. Allah binding it upon the people. Himself, tabaraka wa ta'ala. That's the first category. With those three types of fasting, whether it be ada'an, qada'an, or kaffara. Whether it be a person performing it right now, or making it up, or an expiation. Then you have the second type of fast that is what? Obligatory. Which Allah did not make obligatory, rather you made it obligatory by yourself. Such as taking a what? A vow. Taib, what is this connected to what we're talking about now? So you know me, when I teach, I try to connect the dots. So now we're going to connect the dots. A person think I went off the subject. No, I didn't. It's connected. Taib, if you look at the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said what? Whoever dies, and upon him is an obligatory fast, then his hair is what? Inherit from him. Or his hairs will now have to what? Fast for him. Taib. Now keep in this mind. Now we're going to talk about what we'll discuss and tie everything together. Taib. So now, basically it's saying, based upon this hadith, you'll find that it's general. So basically, we would take from the hadith what the Prophet ﷺ said here, all of these categories is just on the paper, without any exception. Whether it be what? Whether it be nadar, doesn't matter. Whether it be nadar, whether you had to make it up, expiation, doesn't matter. You have to, your hairs, if a person died and he had upon him to do this, then what? He would have to what? Do it for him. Right? Is it clear? It's not clear. Because all those siyam, all those different types of fasts, it's obligatory. It doesn't necessarily say that that person has all those fasting upon him. He might have a couple upon them, or one of those categories. Is it clear? But based upon that hadith we were talking about here in the book, then what? That would necessitate what, everyone? That he have to do what? That his heirs, or those who inherited from him, is what? They have to make those obligatory fasts up for him or her. Right? Why? Listen to what it says of why. There's a qa'idah, ya ma'ish al-ikhwa. Because if a person dies and he has a lot of estate, he has a lot of money, wealth also, not only do you inherit his benefits or her benefits, but you also take on some other things too. Some debts too. Yeah. As they say, al-ghanam bil-gharm. There's a qa'idah. When they say al-ghanam bil-gharm. Like the benefit also comes along with it, the gharm. The what? The things that you also have to take on of the burdens too. Right? Just keep in mind. He's good. He's not disturbing. So, I'm going to read this quickly. Even Sheikh Salih Fawzan gives a good explanation to this. So just listen before you start writing down. This hadith is an indication that a person that فهذا الحديث يدل على أن من مات وعليه صيام سواء كان صياما واجبا لأصل الشرع كقضاء رمضان أو واجبا بالنذر أو الكفارة فإن وليه هو قريب يصوم عنه وهذا في غاية الحكمة لأن قريبه يرثه فمن المناسب أن يصوم عنه إذا كان يرثه ويستفيد منه إذا كان عليه صيام يتحمله عنه في مقابل من ينتفع به من ميراثه. Listen to this. He says an indication that a person that dies, it does not matter whether it be a fast that is obligatory due to the origin of the shara', such as Ramadan or making it up, or whether it be a what? Whether it be a vow or expiation. For verily his heirs, meaning his relative, will fast for him. He says, and this is in the utmost of wisdom, because his relative, he inherits from him. He says, so it is what? He says it is appropriate that he will also likewise what? Fast for him. So now you benefit from somebody. You take some of their estate, they might have a lot of money, they might have a lot of estate, they might have a lot of this. But you also now have to take on their what? Their debt. You have to make sure that's paid off. Whether it be in money or whether it be in what? And even in certain aspects of worship. So don't just think, oh, I got some money, I got inheritance. Al-ghanam bil-gharm. Benefit is also taking on also the responsibilities of what they had too. Jahid. Tahib. So he says, min al-munasib. He said that you also fast for him. He says because the annahu kana yarithuhu yastafidu min, because you inherited from him, you benefited from him. So now if he had upon him what is what? Fast, then you assume the responsibility. You assume the responsibility in the exchange of what you benefited from his inheritance. Jayid? It says, so now the hadith says clearly, whoever dies and upon him is what? Fasting, then his wali or his heir will fast for him. هذا يقيده هذا الحديث والعلماء اختلفوا رحمه الله. So now it's clear. So this hadith now necessitates what? What does it necessitate? Just to conclude it up and draw up a conclusion. So everybody listen before you write down. Just listen, understand. Number one, you'll find from Ahl Ilm that they say the hadith is general. That whoever dies and upon him a fast that is obligatory. Notice I didn't say voluntary. Obligatory. That the person who's his heirs will assume the what? Responsibility. So what can a qada Ramadan, doesn't matter which type of fast that you just wrote down on your paper. Doesn't matter. They'll make no distinction. Due to the fact it says that there's another hadith. The Messenger of Allah said that a woman came to him. This is another narration. Alhamdulillah, we memorized this when I was in college in hadith in Medina. They told us to memorize this hadith. The hadith of the woman who says, O Messenger of Allah, my mother died, he says that my mother died and it was upon her a fast. Do I make it up for her? So the Prophet says, أرأيتي لو كان على أمك دين أكنت قاضيته؟ قالت نعم. قال فالله أحق أن يقضى. To the end of the hadith. So then it says in the narration, he says, do you not see, the Prophet was addressing the woman. He said, do you not see that if it was upon your mother, a debt, don't you see you would have to pay it off for her? She said, yes. He says, so fulfill that debt for Allah is more deserving that his debt be fulfilled. Right? As this was a statement of a group of Ahl Ilm. He says that the person is fulfilled upon the person who's dead, his fast that is obligatory. Doesn't matter whether it be from the origin of the shara or something that you made obligatory upon yourself. So basically, just to sum it up, if you want to say, put a line under it, there's a group from Ahl Ilm that say that just if you want to say one sentence just to make it concise, that the hadith is general for all these fasts. Just to sum it up. So keep it straight to the point. Is it clear? I know what you're probably going to cover. Go ahead. Let me see what you're going to say. If they not for the rest of the days, but for the days you missed already. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into it. There's some more details to come. There's some more details to come. We'll give you some more details. Don't worry. Don't worry, because the next one now is going to become more clear. Don't be so hasty. Type number 2, because I knew the question was going to come. It was going to be connected to the next thing I was about to say. Type number 2, statement from Ahl Ilm. This is more. This is going to make everything clear and put everything in perspective. And this opinion, inshallah, is exactly what is correct. Type. So this is the second one. The hadith, or this particular narration, only applies or was obligatory. Let's listen. He said, أَنَّهُ مَا وَجَبَ بِأَصْلِ الشَّرْعِ لَا يُصَامُ. What is obligatory upon the origin of the shara', it is not, no one fasts for him or her. Due to the origin of the shara'. I just said what was the meaning of the origin of the shara'. What's the origin of the shara'? What is that? Allah made obligatory. That which is, write it, you're clear. Oh, no, I told you now it's not the right down, so that's my fault. Type. What, now you can start writing here. You can write here. What is obligatory upon the origin of the shara'? A person does not what? He does not, no one else fasts for him or her for that. No one else fasts for you for a fast that's from the origin of the shara'. No one else fasts for you after your death. Just write it down. Just write it down. It's my job to make you understand. He said that was obligatory upon the origin of the shara'. No one fasts for you. After your death, of course, because the hadith is talking about what? After one's what? The one's death. Why? Put your pens down until you finish writing that. Why? Because they say it's similar to salat. That makes sense. Similar to the prayer. Can anyone pray for you? Why I keep saying that? What's the better words I can use? Can someone perform the prayer for you? After your death, oh, he didn't used to pray his obligatory salah. I'm going to pray for him. Can you do that? Permissible? No. No one can pray. No one can perform prayers for you. The actual act of prayer, not supplication. Huh? Is it clear what I'm saying? So now I can start to answer your question, isn't it? That's what I said. Don't be hasty. Jayyid. So they say it's similar to the salat. Can anybody pray salat in your place for you? Nobody. Whether it be you living or in your what? After your death. No one can pray salat, obligatory salat for you. Nobody can say he missed Asr, Dhuhr, Fajr. Hey, I'm going to pray for him. Clear? Someone doing it in your place cannot do it for you. Because it's an act from the body. Just listen. For likewise, siyam is the same thing. When it's obligatory. It's an act of the body. That niyaba, what they call niyaba, meaning someone do it for you. They call substituting. If you would say, for lack of better words, niyaba, meaning someone can do it for you. Or do it in your place. That does not enter in affairs that is what? Obligatory in the origin of the shara'. Whether it be in what? Fasting, or whether it be what? In prayer. Of what is obligatory. No one can do what is an obligatory act in your what? In your absence, or whether it be in your living or your death. Someone will go, oh, you didn't pray Fajr, I'll pray for you. No, nobody can do that for you. You didn't fast a month of Ramadan? Oh, I'll fast for you. No, you can't do that for anyone. You understand? Because that's something that's obligatory from the what? The origin of the shara'. The origin of the shara'. Of the Kitab al-Sunnah, from what Allah made obligatory. He says, for there verily a person does not what? Does not make it up for the dead person from these type of what? Affairs that we just mentioned. However, this is what they say in the second statement. He says, however, if he has an estate to be divided, he has some money, they would say in this instance that then someone would feed someone for him. They would feed for him if they had an estate, or if they had some type of inheritance that was left. He said, in that case, this is what I want you guys to write down. In that case, if he had an estate, a tadika, had an estate where it could be what? Distributed. Now listen. Let me write down too. If he had an estate, then what? Then a person feeds for him or her. If they do that, then it's good. That's good. But if they don't, then you don't have to. But if they had an inheritance or a tadika, then they could feed for him. And this is the opinion of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim. This is Ibn al-Qayyim's position and Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah. Just keep the context before I actually. Right to finish that sentence? Okay. He says, if the person has a tadika, he has a estate of money. He has an estate of money. Then his heirs would come and just feed for what? For him. They will feed for him, meaning someone who's indigent or poor, impoverished. Person from the indigent. Person is poor. So they would take from his estate after his death and feed for him. Why? Because we just said the second statement. Is it clear what I'm saying so far, everyone? This is the statement of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah and the position of Ibn al-Qayyim. Write this down. This is the position of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim. So what's the position of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim, brothers and sisters? What is it? That it's not a person that dies and he did not perform something that was an obligatory duty from the origin of the shara', meaning Allah made it obligatory, then a person will not do it in their place, or someone will not do it in their absence or in their death form. They will not do it. That's obligatory. Is it clear what I'm saying so far? Actually, because he fasted. Watch after Jamal leaves, due to his intelligence, it'll start to dry. The paint will dry. You'll understand it. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah Ibn al-Qayyim's position is that what is obligatory from the asl al-shara' is that a person after your death cannot perform something that's obligatory upon you in your absence when you're living and you're deaf. Right now, I ask you, oh yeah, he died. Did he pray out, sir? No, I'll pray for him. Yeah. He had some days of Ramadan he had to make up. Hey, I'll do it for him. No. If it's done something, especially if it was something that he left off due to what? Because he was sick or what have you. Doesn't matter. Something that's obligatory by the origin of the Shara', a person does not have to make it up for him, or someone else does not make it up for him. That's the position of Ibn al-Qayyim and Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah. That someone else does not make it up for him. Type. So what does this hadith apply to now? So now, a person would say, after all this, so how do we apply the hadith then? What's the meaning of the hadith then? طيب. So that's the opinion of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, واختيار شيخ الإسلام تيمية. القول الأول كما سبق العموم. طيب. So now let's go back to the first statement. So let's go back to the first statement. Then we'll end the lesson. Alhamdulillah, mess your brains up while you're fasting. The person will probably say, how you have all this energy and you're fasting? Trust me, I'm fighting my foggy brain functions too. It doesn't seem like it, but I am. I just know how to control it real well. But anyway, so now going back to what is obligatory or the origin of the Shara'. So now let's go back to the first statement. So now how do we apply this? It says هذا عام صمع عنه ولي ولكن أهل القول الثاني الذين فرقوا بين ما يجب بأصل الشرع وما يجب بعمل الإنسان قالوا في بعض الأحاديث. This is now let's go back to the first statement. How would he now apply this? And what is the statement of Shaykh al-Islam and Ibn al-Qayyim in regards to this, their position? What's their dalil to take this distinction or take this position that they took? So they can now pose the first statement that we just mentioned, of the first statement of the first position that we took, which is what is general, right? What's the dalil? The dalil is this. There's a narration in Bukhari. You want to write this down? There's a narration in Bukhari that woman that came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that woman that came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's another part of the hadith that's authentic. So you notice the first position that is what is general, right, everyone? The hadith is general, whether it be in the origin of the Shara' or the what? Or what you made binding upon yourself, right? So they use that hadith of the woman. But the Prophet ﷺ said, what? Do you see that if it was a debt, wouldn't you not make it up for your mother when you not pay it off? She said, yes. He said, so fulfill it, for verily Allah is more deserving that debt be what? Be fulfilled. That same hadith that they use, they don't realize that same hadith that they use, there's another wording to it, which is in Bukhari. That when the Prophet ﷺ, there's another narration where the Prophet ﷺ, in that same narration, that the woman said that what was upon my mother was a vow. What was upon my mother was a vow she had to make up. A siyam and never. So that now, inshallah, should put everything in perspective. So it's not general anymore. Jayyid. It's the second category. So you see why before, when I started this is the reason why teaching is a strategy. Now you know why I got you guys, I opened up with the categories first. Then I brought it back to what is what? To this particular instance. So it could be clear now. Exactly. Never came to your mind. So it says in Bukhari that the woman said, Inna ummati matat wa alayhi as-sawm nadhr. My mom died, it was upon her fasting, that was a vow. So something that was obligatory for what she made obligatory, not what Allah made obligatory. Jayyid. So they say their hadith. So now this hadith restricts the generality. So the generality is now applied to what restricted it. So this hadith restricted that narration. So that's the reason why Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah took this position and Ibn al-Qayyim. Based upon that. Even though, like I said, but this is what strongest opinion, inshallah. Huh? Not to do another. Well, as far as getting back, now we're talking about something else. Now he's talking about something else. He's talking about another in general. Because another could be siyam, it could be salat, it could be anything. It could be sadaqah, or for example, if Allah gives me a healthy baby, then it's upon me for Allah to give sadaqah, give $500 to the masjid. That's another. All that another just doesn't apply for siyam. It could be salat, it could be sadaqah, it could be anything. But another in its origin is this praise. There's nobody that praises of taking a vow. Whether it be haram, or you take the opinion of it be haram or being detested, it's still in its origin, it's still dispraiseworthy. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ dispraised it. So there is no position you'll find that ilm praise another in its origin. The only thing that's praiseworthy is the person that actually fulfills it once he says it. But the actual performance of it is dispraise in the Sharia. It's dispraise for the person to do it. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said what? It's extracted from the one who's stingy. Why? Because it's as if your ibadah that you're doing for Allah, it has an exchange in it. If Allah don't do this for me, I ain't doing it for him. Because if you notice in the statement I made, it says, if Allah does this, then I'll do this. That's why the Prophet ﷺ says it's extracted from the one who's stingy. Because it's as if you're putting a what? Your ibadah that you're performing for Allah has to have some type of not compensation, but it has to have some exchange in it. I would say an exchange. Like if Allah give me this, then I'll do this for him. That's why they say it's dispraiseworthy. Whether it be hated or whether it be what? Haram. So it's not dispraise, it's not praise to perform another at all. Whether we say it's haram upon the qawl, upon the statement where we say it's haram, or upon the statement that we say is what? Is hated. Doesn't matter. It's still dispraise. Is it clear? Play it. All right, now I'm tired. Teacher, I'm trying to tell you, the teacher takes on a lot of brain work. You guys don't know, my brain be fried. And I'll be in a deep sleep after I go home. My brain is fried. Huh? Brothers, if you can, inshallah, I'm going to try to, there's a couple other things I wanted to, so alhamdulillah, for the most part, we completed the chapter. The chapter's finished. Chapter of Kitab al-Siyam is done. Finished. Concluded. Finished. Done. Finalized. Alhamdulillah. That's part of something of a gift from Allah has given me. And it's also at the same time, it's very, they say, for lack of better words, what people say, it's a gift and a curse. Because I have what they call PTHD. Because I have to finish. If I don't finish it, it will bother me. It will bother me. And I will not be able to sleep until I finish it. You understand, everyone? So we finished it. So alhamdulillah, I can sleep at night. So we finished the book. We finished the chapter. Fine. Is there any questions about the lesson? As far as there's a couple other things I want to talk about Siyam, and other than after that, then it'll be what? Done. Then it'll be done. The whole complete affair of fasting. So there's one more class I wanted to give, and we'll get that next week and we'll finish. All right? Any questions about Siyam, fasting, anything? Brothers, sisters? Sisters too? Huh?
According to this, can you use that other hadith based upon this as well? Like the hukm, when it was talking about when the men came to the prophet and he was saying, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do this. And he said, well, I marry women. And what was the other one? And I fast and I break my fast. Can you use that hadith as well? To link it to this? You know what I'm talking about?
That's for the person that has nothing to do with another. They didn't make a vow. Because they didn't make a vow. None of those Sahaba made a vow to the Prophet. From what I know, they're going to say that for Allah, I'm going to fast forever. Or for Allah, I'm going to pray every night forever. They just said we're just going to do it. But there's no indication that says that they took a vow. You get what I'm saying? If they took a vow, then you could say there is a relation. But if they didn't, then Allah, you can't really say it was connected. There's no vow in it. Any other questions? Any other questions about Siyam? No, I was eating. He's knocked out. I mean, I don't see how they. Kids can sleep at any position. Remember those days? You really like knock over like.